Thank you so much for staying with us on Saturday's special. This morning we are talking about sickle cell anemia. June 19th every year is celebrated as World Sickle Cell Day. It's a day to raise awareness on this disease and its impacts on people, their families, and society in general. And a couple of days ago, that was the focus, and we are also placing a focus on it today on Saturday's special. Well, what exactly is this disease? What's the impact? What does it do? Can it be prevented? Is there a cure? And so many questions that people ask about the disease. And particularly also, what's the prevalence? Well, we have our guest this morning who will be answering these questions and more today on Saturday's special. Dr. Oladapo Awonranti is a consultant hematologist. It's good to have you here with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
And also we have Ms. Olayinka Adepola, a caregiver. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's lay the foundation and put it in frameworks. So let's get to the classroom.
All right.
Let's start with you, doctor. What is sickle cell, and what is the prevalent around us here? What is sickle cell?
Thank you for having me, sir. Sickle cell disease is actually a broader form of this disease. We have the homozygous and the heterozygous. I will talk about them. So, sickle cell disease is actually an inherited disorder that you get from
a disorder
from both the parents. It's autosomal recessive. That means if you inherit one from the parent, one of the parents is not going to bring about the disease.
Okay.
But if you have one from the one of the parents and the other from the other parents, the disease will form.
It takes two to tango?
Yes, it takes two to tango.
All right.
So there is actually a genetic problem, a genetic mutation that actually affected the globin. There is hemoglobin in the blood. Hemoglobin is that red one that we see in the blood. It has two components, the heme and the globin. The globin is the amino acid component of the hemoglobin. So the problem with sickle cell disease actually affects that globin chain, beta globin chain. At position 6, there is exchange of amino acid. There is glutamic acid at position 6. It's being replaced by valine because of that mutation. So it changed the sequence of amino acid in that individual. And subsequently, there is sickled hemoglobin. So when somebody inherits one from father, another one from mother, it becomes a disease entity. But somebody can inherit S from father and C from the mother. The individual will be called hemoglobin SC. It's a component of the sickle cell disease or sickle cell disorder, but that is not the sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is when S is inherited from the father and S is also inherited from the mother and becomes SS. That's the sickle cell anemia. So the broader form of the disease is the sickle cell disease. The sickle cell anemia is a component under the sickle cell disease. So we also have hemoglobin AS, maybe A from the father and S from the mother. AS is not a disease entity. Those are the people we call the carriers. That individual has the trait, and then subsequently can actually, if he marries somebody that is also AS, can also bring about the formation of sickle cell disease in the children. And the World Sickle Cell Disease Awareness Day was actually to increase our awareness about the disease so that we can, to a reasonable extent, reduce the prevalence. For now, the prevalence is about 2 to 3 in Nigeria.
Out of
100.
Okay.
2 to 3 individuals have this disease. But we have a lot of people that actually have that are carrying this, that are carriers, okay, traits. And that's why we are continuing to have the sickle cell disease entity in Nigeria.
So we have sickle cell, SS,
yes, sickle cell
SC,
anemia, SC,
AS.
Yes, there are many of them. There is AS, carrier state, no disease. It's not part of the disease. We have the SS, that's the sickle cell anemia. So SC is sickle cell disease.
SC is disease too.
Yes, it's also disease. Sickle cell anemia is also a disease, but it's distinct because it is SS. It has the one that is more prevalent and then comes with a lot of complications compared to other ones.
What about SC?
SC is relatively better compared to other ones. We have the SD Punjab, SD Ibadan. There is Ho Harab. So there are a lot of them, but the common ones, the commoner ones that we have in our environment is SS and SC.
Why is it called sickle?
It's because when there is actually a qualitative disorder, there are different types of hemoglobinopathy that we are talking about. This one is affecting the globin chain and it's affecting the quality. So when there is deoxygenation, when the oxygen level is reduced, you know, the shape of the red blood cell is biconcave. So the shape allows for the red cell to move because we have different blood vessels. There are big ones, there are smaller ones, depending on when that blood is going to. So when there is reduction in the oxygen level, maybe the blood has moved far away from the heart and the oxygen level is quite low, the red blood cell will change shape to a sickled.
Ordinarily it's circular.
It's biconcave, ordinarily.
Biconcave.
So it can maneuver into blood vessels. But when it becomes sickle, because of the oxygen tension that is low, it changes the shape and then over time it will block the flow of blood. Because it won't be able to maneuver just like the biconcave shape normal red blood cells. So it will block, and then if there's no blood supply, from there, every part that is meant to be supplied by blood, they will be having pain. And that's the basis for the crisis that we always talk about in sickle cell disease.
Mr. Adekola, we've heard from a doctor, but from your standpoint, what is sickle cell disease?
Sickle cell is pain, deep pain, is excruciating pain. That's what I know that sickle cell is. I know, from what he said, I got it from my parents. They are late, but I love them. But while they got married, well, it was because of love, because they stayed together for over 50 years. And sickle cell, to me, is pain, excruciating pain. I don't have that much now, probably because I'm older. And as you get, somebody said, as you get, I'm not sure, that as you get older, the pain, you have to, it gets to the internal organs, there's a problem with that. But while I was younger, I was always in and out of school. And because I was in crisis. But I am a few of the lucky ones, one of the few of the lucky ones, because my parents were informed, well informed. My mother retired as the matron in charge, accident and emergency, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. So she knew what to do. And nursing was her passion. To the point when all through the night I would be in her bedroom in pain. When she gets to hospital to work the next day, she would leave me in her office. She would have forgotten that I was even there, rolling in pain. And then I would just be praying that she would send somebody to the office to see me. God answers those prayers, because then she could send the maid and she would say, Nika, you are here. It could be that maid that would be running around looking for somebody to take care of me.
Is it because of the frequency of the crisis?
I'm just describing a major crisis that I had. I always have pain. Any slightest thing when it's raining. I don't know, my dad always had an insight into my well-being. Because while I'm playing or something, he would just say, Nika, go and sleep. And you can be sure the next day I will be in pain. I don't know how he knows when I have to stop. And I was exempted from so many things. I used to like my siblings and my friends around. We were living in Surulere, Aguda. When I'm here and I'm at home, they will come back and tell me the fun they had walking back home. But my parents would not allow me to walk. I remember there was a particular episode. I had crisis. And they came back and they were gisting me about the fun coming back. So the next day I told my parents that I was well. And they allowed me to go to school. And unfortunately, my mom knew Nika is in school. She left loose to come and pick me at Surulere Baptist Day School. Unfortunately for her, before it was even time, I had called everybody, oh yeah, let us go home, it is time. But then she even bashed her car. But and then she told me that she doesn't even know how to scold me. Because if you beat her, she will break down. But she has a way of dealing
Let's
with
talk about this pain that you experience. Which parts of your body?
It could be everywhere. It could be chest, it could be leg, it could be anywhere.
Okay.
It could be generalized. It could be
Now this
generalized
pain, when it is located in a particular part of the body, is it moving around or just stationary? You just get that pain there, or it just moves around?
I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes when it starts, the onset, it could be moving around everywhere, not moving around, paining everywhere. But with treatment, it gets to a point where it could be localized. It could be the leg, and that could stay for some time. With painkillers and therapy and things like that, it goes away after some time.
Let's get the doc's perspective on the crisis that she was talking about. I know you touched on it earlier on, but give us an understanding of what truly is going on here when we hear there is a crisis.
Well, research has shown that pain is the commonest presentation in every sickle cell disease. There are other things, but that's the presentation that heralds the beginning of sickle cell disease, because it will start at 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months.
Yes, that is
when
that is when it is expected that the fetal blood that an individual comes to life will change to the adulthood. And instead of changing to the normal adulthood, it's going to change into the hemoglobin S. And subsequently, that is when the presentation can start as early as 3 to 6 months of life. And just as she has said it, it's pain that will herald the beginning of sickle cell disease. Though there are a lot of things happening now, they want to do newborn screening to actually pick them as early as they give birth to them. But for now, in our environment, it's actually pain that actually brings us. So pain could start from anywhere. Just as she has said, normally it starts, the pain score or the threshold could actually be as low, the severity could be mild when it is starting. But over time it increases in severity, especially if what is causing it, if the trigger is not actually handled. So there are triggers for this crisis. So if you can handle the trigger, there's a possibility that the pain will actually reduce, or you may not have it as often as possible. But the pain in sickle cell disease could be.
It was about pain, crisis in sickle cell disease. Please go ahead.
Okay, so the crises are about 5 types, but the commonest of them all is the bone pain crisis that we refer to as vaso-occlusive crisis. It could affect any part of the body, including the abdomen, the tummy. So there is abdominal crisis following the vaso-occlusive crisis, the vaso-occlusion, blood not getting to where the vaso-occlusion is being, the vessel is being blocked because of these irreversible sickle cells. So the pain is the commonest one. And then after the pain, we have what we call the hemolytic crisis, or what we refer to as hyperhemolysis, because the blood is, the shape is different. So the body also knows that this shape is not what it's meant to be, because they're actually the normal one, and then they subsequently change to abnormal one. So the body will try to take care of those abnormal cells, try to kill and take them off circulation. So generally, sickle cell disease is actually a chronic hemolytic disorder. But when there are infections, when there are challenges, the blood cells that are not many, they will also break down some of these blood cells. That's why we have the hemolytic crisis. That is what we call the aplastic crisis. Aplastic crisis means there is actually an infection, a parvovirus, a viral infection. But the problem with this viral infection is it's affecting the developing red blood cell, not the matured one. So if it's affecting the mature one, you will know that developing one can grow to the mature one. But now it's affecting the developing one. So the mature ones are being broken down by the body. The developing one is also being broken down by being affected by the viral infection. So the blood volume will also go down. We also have what we call the sequestration crisis. In sequestration crisis, the organs in the body, the spleen, the liver, could actually be taking up the blood, because where there is a blood flow, it is through the artery. When the blood wants to move out, it's through the vein. So the vein could actually be blocked by this irreversible sickle cell. Blood will be coming in and they won't be able to find their way out. So those organs will be getting bigger and the blood volume will be reducing in size. That's sequestration.
The spleen crisis. And the liver.
The spleen or the liver. Or the liver.
Okay. So
after then, we have the megaloblastic crisis. Because the blood level is low and it's being hemolyzed, it's a chronic hemolytic disorder. There is need to actually take supplements to bring about formation of cells. Because so there are instances that there could be deficiency of some supplement because of the need to continuously produce the demand or increased demand for red cell to be formed. So these are the 5 crises that we have in sickle cell. But the commonest of them all is actually the bone pain crisis. And there are triggers, just as I said the other time. Infection is one of them, malaria infection, bacterial infection, viral infection. These are actually the triggers. The weather, when it is too cold, is problematic. When it is too hot, it's problematic. Anything that will take water out of an individual, because when the water is out, there is dehydration. The blood cell may actually need to be, they will come together more because there is dehydration. So that's why when the weather is too hot, there will be bone pain crisis. When weather is too cold, there will also be sluggish in the flow of the blood. And that's why you also tell them you must actually look for ways to keep yourself warm. And then when the weather is hot, you also encourage that you take a lot of water. Also, the activities. That's why the mom will not allow her to walk from school back home, because increased activity also brings about this bone pain crisis. Even normal physiological activity like menstruation could also be responsible for bone pain crisis in sickle cell disease patients. So all this, when these things are coming, you also need to prepare. When the weather is changing from when you are entering into the rainy season, there is a way you prepare. When the weather is going to be very hot, there is a way you prepare. So on a daily basis, there is actually a preparation to prevent sickle cell disease crisis.
Is this really a problem of dehydration or deoxygenation, or is it both? I'm trying to get an understanding of that.
So it is a problem of deoxygenation. But when you have a problem, there could actually be some precipitating factors. So there's a genetic problem that affects the blood, but you can actually cope if those precipitating factors are not there. So all these triggers are actually precipitating factors that will actually bring about the crisis. So that's why you see some of them not having this crisis, because she said as she grows old, there is a possibility that she will not have, because she's used to it. And then she knows what to do and what not to do to prevent it.
Okay, so back to you, Mr. Adebola. If we're to look at what would you say, in your own opinion and experience, helped out the most?
What helped out the most? Well, the God factor is there. I believe so much in the law of God. And then my mom was a strong pillar. She taught me how to take care of myself. And even while she was passing, she said, Abakade, a meeting low, take care of yourself. She gave me a lot of support. And I have support of my siblings and my uncles and aunties. But the most thing about it is that since I know what to do, I do what I'm supposed to do. The last year, I had to re-net my whole house so that I didn't get bitten by mosquitoes. I make sure my car is in top notch. even if I don't have enough money to buy a new one, I make sure if the mechanic said this is anything I hear a small sound, I fix it.
Why is that?
Because I know that it's more stressful for me to take public transport to work than to drive myself to work. I can't be in the rain. I can't be in the sun. So I make sure I take good care of, and I eat well. If I don't have any money for anything, I have money for my medication and for food. Those are my two, and for fueling my car. Those are my 3 priorities. Like that, I have to, well, each time, once I'm paid, my first port of call is the pharmacy shop to refill my medications. So because of the training I received from my mom, I've been able to keep well. As I said, nursing was her passion, and she knew what to do, and she taught me all to do.
When was the last time you experienced a crisis?
Well, it was there. The major crisis I had was in 2016. I was 49 then. And I had what you call effective pneumonia.
Okay, that's an infection.
It's an infection. I was having pain in my ribs. And I didn't even know it was something serious. My brother took me to UCH, hematology department. And my threshold of pain when it started was about 9/10. It was really bad. And in fact, for the first time, I was given morphine.
That's strong.
That's strong. In fact, after some time, I had to tell them, stop this morphine. I think I can bear. I don't think this morphine is good for me. And since then, I've not taken it because I don't think it's good for me. That's the last time I had a major crisis. Because then, I just woke up in the middle of the night. They were running helter-skelter. I said that I saw oxygen, I saw blood. I said, what is this? I had to send a message to my group in Georgia. Please pray for me. I don't know what is happening. And that was the last time I had a major. And since then, and that was when I started using this drug, hydroxyurea. And I found out that it has really been helping me.
Okay, so I would love to ask the doctor. We have heard, this is her personal story. We know the stories vary, experiences vary. But in general, we have also heard that the older a person becomes, the less, bouts of crisis they have. Tell us what really is that the situation?
Well, that should be the situation.
Should be.
Because there are 2 things to it. One is because, just as I've said, she's used to it. They get used to it, and they know how to manage themselves better. What are those things that could actually give a favorable condition for a sickle cell disease patient? One is your link to a functional hematology center that can advise you and tell you what could be done at every point in time, how to prevent it or prevent the crisis. 2 is social support. Who are those people that are actually supporting you, and you find before you say anything, you're in the hospital for tests and other things. 3 is what the resources you have. These are the factors that can actually, you're linked to a good hospital, social support, and then the money that you have. So she's been coming, so she knows that I'm not supposed to do this, I'm not supposed to do that, I'm supposed to take my drugs regularly. Another thing is because it's also been found out that the sickle cell disease affects so many organs. It could affect the brain, stroke, there could be sickle cell nephropathy where the kidneys are damaged, there could be sickle cell hepatopathy. It's been found out that when the kidneys are being affected, there's a possibility that the bone pain will reduce. So there could be a form of damage happening in the system while the bone pain crisis is actually resolving. So when there is actually a sickle cell disease, sickle cell nephropathy, most likely the patient will not actually present with pain again. So we are also trying to look at what could be responsible for this. So they move from having the bone pain to actually being transfused more often. So as individuals grow, there's a possibility that, one, they may be used to what could actually prevent sickle cell crisis, or there's another thing happening in their body.
So with regards to, general management of the disease, now, what can you tell us?
General management is actually, there are new insights and new management protocols. Now, on Monday we'll be having the usage body will be having their own World Sickle Cell Disease Day. We just want to look at different modalities that can be done in Nigeria, and then how we can use this to actually help our patients. So one of those things is that there's possibility of actually screening newborn now, and then immediately after screening, you can actually counsel the parents, and then they can start clinic as fast as possible, compared to when you just pick it when there's a problem.
Would that make any difference?
Yes, because when you are, just as I've said, you are in the hospital already, you know what is going to happen, and then they can start preventive measures in the individual. That's one. Two, you can now quantify the hemoglobin. Before, it used to be as electrophoresis, go and do your, you call it, everybody call it genotype. Just go and do your genotype. And that's also one of the challenges that we have. When you go to do your genotype, they will say you are HE, while the person is actually an HES. And then subsequently, they've been able to allow us to have more sickle cell disease individuals, babies. So now we can quantify, get the percentage. The percentage S in an individual can actually be 94%. For another individual, it could be 90%. So we can actually determine the severity of the disease by doing that and say, this category of people, you need to watch them more than the individuals that have more of, lesser of that hemoglobin S. So the resources that you have, instead of just spreading them equally, you can say this set of people that have their hemoglobin S higher than this value, they are supposed to come every two weeks or come every week so that you can monitor them. So when you also do that hemoglobin quantitation, you also try to, apart from seeing the hemoglobin S, that's what we call the fetal hemoglobin. That is the hemoglobin that newborns, they actually come with. By the 3rd to 6th month, they are meant to change to adulthood. But there is still this percentage in individuals. For normal individuals, hemoglobin here, they could be 0.5%. But for sickle cell disease individuals, it could be as high as 10%, 15%, because it also has a prognostic factor. So when you have, you can get the fetal hemoglobin of an individual, you can also start drug that can increase the fetal hemoglobin. And that was the drug she mentioned. Try to increase the fetal hemoglobin
so that reduces,
so that it will reduce it. It will reduce the hemoglobin S in that individual, and then it will reduce the severity of the disease. You can also do there's what we call the red cell exchange. In that individual, you can remove the sickled hemoglobin, the sickled cell, sickled blood, remove, and then give normal hemoglobin HE blood to that individual.
Okay. That is an doctor. I want to see, you were talking about the management, and you had got to a very interesting point where you said one management procedure could be to take out,
Yes.
the blood cells and replace. Please just go ahead. You're the doc.
They can actually remove the sickled blood cells and then give the normal hemoglobin HE.
Temporary or is it permanent?
It's temporary because the lifespan of a red cell is about 120 days. So when you give an individual another cell, within 90 days, those cells will also, they will have completed their lifespan, and most likely they will also be broken down. So it's actually a temporary measure to actually reduce some of the complications that we have in sickle cell disease. But it could, an individual could be advised to do it maybe 2 or 3 times in a year. So when it's done 2 to 3 times a year, the individual will be free of crisis, because the hemoglobin A is being given, and that will spend about 3 months. You have given another one, spend about 3 months. Before you know it, there may not be crisis throughout the year.
Okay, that's a temporary situation.
Yes, but it also comes down, there are complications.
Complications even in that?
Also from that, because you are not taking that unit of blood from an individual. And then the blood banking system that we still operate in Nigeria, we just check for 2 blood groups, ABO and then results. So that's why I say somebody is A positive, is AB negative. But the other group of blood groups, the blood group antigens that we are not checking. So there could be antigen-antibody reaction, because you are taking from different individuals, and then the individual can develop an antibody that when you give any blood, it will break down those units of blood.
Well, that's interesting, because it does mean that we do not have an extensive screening
yes, we don't do
system.
Extensive screening system. Although the only center in Nigeria that actually has the equipment, automate, that you can do your blood group, everything, is UCH. But we also we've not started using them now. Over time, we'll start doing those things.
But we hear also of, I don't know if you can call this management or treatment, we hear of things like stem cell treatments and bone marrow transplants. What's that all about?
So stem cell transplantation is also
Transplants?
Yes,
okay.
It's also the bone marrow transplantation.
Okay.
What they are looking for in the bone marrow is the stem cell. In our body, we also have the stem cell, though there are not that many. So if somebody wants to donate, they can actually give a drug that will increase the stem cell circulation in the peripheral blood that we have, instead of going to the marrow. So it's also the treatment of choice, where you can actually have it done now. And it's been done in Nigeria. What they do is they will kill as many cells in an individual and then transplant with stem cell from individuals that are actually AA, so that there won't be S in the circulation. The individual will not be S again. Maximum, the person will be AS.
That's a cure now.
Yes, it's a cure for sickle cell disease. But it comes down with a lot of, it also has the complications. But when an individual can actually survive the first 100 days, there is actually a possibility that it will be able to survive the other part. So the factor that aids survival is actually the compatibility between the person that is donating and the person that is receiving. So a lot of tests needs to be done to actually see the compatibility before you allow an individual to donate. So it's actually a cure. And then can be done in Nigeria now.
It can be done in Nigeria?
Can be done in Nigeria now, though it's actually being run on a private basis. But at least it can be done in Nigeria, and it's been done on few occasions for sickle cell disease. Successfully in Nigeria.
We'll certainly still come back to that one.
Definitely.
Let me come to you. I mean, you've been around for quite a while now. Have you experienced stigmatization? School, workplace, society?
No.
And what forms? How does it come?
I think I have in so many ways. You know, they will say there's a limit to what she can do. Even where there are opportunities that are...
Let's start from school.
From school, I was treated with kids' glove. I was treated right from primary school. Because a lot of my teachers in school, they know my background. They know what my parents go through to take care of me. I remember there was a teacher in Surulere Baptist School, day school then, when they were supposed to give us immunization. You would think she was the one taking the immunization on my behalf. She was, hey, where are you going to put it and everything like that. So I was treated right. And there was it's just that I wasn't stigmatized again when I was in primary school. even in secondary school, a lot of people, I feel people around me, they show a lot of love and compassion, not even pity. Some were envious because despite my sickness, I was a top A student. Because the doctor will tell you, most sickle cell patients are always highly intelligent. My pastor then said, the problem I would have is with the high level of intelligence and a weak body, I don't know where to stop. I want to go on and not go on. And I remember that even while I was in school, anytime I'm preparing for an exam, I will break down. In fact, while I was writing my West African exam, I was taken to my auntie's place in Akwata. And I had to tell them that, no, I have to write this exam. I'm not coming back to write this exam. So I left the hospital bed to go and write exam. So I learned that while I was in UI, while I went to UI. I don't wait until exam time to read. Once they give us assignments, once I'm giving a lecture, I sit down to do the diligence, to study. But in the area of relationships, I'm 56, I'm not married. And my parents have taught me to take care of myself, to be able to cater for myself, not to be dependent on anybody. So if a man comes and hears that, I won't throw myself at any man. And because of that, people shy away from sickle cell patients. And even me, by the time I have somebody showing interest, the first thing I want to know is, what is your genotype?
Yeah.
Before it gets any further than that. And I think that has affected me, because I've had chances that I've given up. I remember while I was rounding up in UI, there was somebody that showed interest in me. And I think I wasn't this bold then. I think it looks like a sickler. So we were friends, so when he asked me out, I said no. Maybe what I should have done then was to have asked, what is your genotype? I could do that now, but then I was younger. But then I've not really been, but now.
Workplace experience.
I had a terrible crisis in the year 2011. I came into Oyo State government as a civil servant. I came in as a cultural officer too at the Oyo State Council for Arts and Culture. And I was there for 10 years. Nobody knew. I didn't have any major health challenge. I can tell you, I traveled right from Ibadan by road all the way to Ghana for a cultural show. And I didn't have any crisis. All I know is that mosquito must not bite me, so I go with mosquito repellent. And I put mosquito repellent on. And I enjoy my job. I was doing that for 10 good years. We went to Bayelsa. I've never been to the north, but we go for Abuja Carnival. And I don't have issues. But then, you always want to aspire. I wanted to I became an administrative officer. And my first posting was investment promotion, Ministry of, it was Commerce then it became Trade and Investment. And I had this difficult boss. What she will do, she will come in 8 o'clock. I normally get to the office then, 7:30, I'm at my desk. She will come in 8, she will be there. And she will leave. I think she had something else she was doing. And she will come in 3:45. Then the day's work will start. And I will be closing at 8, 9. The problem was that mosquitoes will bite me. I will be stressed out. And then, because I was just new on the administrative officer job, and I had this thing about reporting. I didn't know who to report to. I didn't know what to do. And my mommy, I had an auntie, she's late now. She will say, whatever your boss does, just keep quiet and follow it. And then I had this massive breakdown. In fact, the chairman of the planning committee of my NGO now, Favoured, Mr. Kunle Agbola, I had to call him 3 a.m. it was the time of Ramadan fast. I knew he would be awake. And fortunately for me, it was the last call I had in the night before I had a major breakdown to come and pick me to UCH. At 4 a.m., he left his house. He came to pick me, and the pain was terrible. It was around the time when we had that major Ibadan flood disaster. I was in UCH then. What triggered this was the fact that I was not, because if I resume at 8 and close at 4, 5, it's okay for me, and I rest. And that brought a major stigma to me at the Secretariat in Oyo State. If there's any opportunity, in fact, the former, you know her, Mrs. Ogoefa, she actually told me, oh, you are the girl from Shaki. I wanted to give you something to do that would at least promote me. He said, but somebody said you cannot handle it because of your health. There was a time I felt I was relegated to the tourism board, and I wasn't really doing anything. They just called me deputy director personnel. How many people are working in tourism board that I will be deputy personnel? Then I went to the PS service master. This thing, I have not. And she said, what kind of designation is that? Deputy director.
Yeah, so how did you manage, all of these,
Well, how do I manage? As I told you, I have as he was saying, social support. I have a very good social network, family, friends. I don't know, people take a liking to me. I don't know why. They want to, a lot of people want to help me. I have a friend that we finished from UI together. BC Oguntoashi. Anything is happening to me, I call her she.
Okay, so
I have
solid support.
Okay,
but what would you say to anyone right now facing stigmatization, either at the workplace or school or whatever?
You can live above stigmatization if you believe in yourself. You know that you can achieve. We call ourselves warrior. The fact that we are fighting for our lives to stay alive, that means that gives something to you that you are strong. You are not just a nobody. Somebody that can fight and win. And we call ourselves warrior. There's a clinic, Criswell, they call themselves champions. When you call yourself a champion, that means you are built for something. Don't let anybody say to you that because of your health you can't do this, you can't do that.
Okay.
You can achieve.
Dr. 2023, June 19th. So what's the theme for this year? And are you...
Well, it was actually a general to raise awareness.
What platforms?
There is a group, there is an association where almost all the consultants also belong to, the Sickle Cell Society of Nigeria. It was actually a national thing, and we had a program. It was actually a virtual program with speakers from all over the world, Kuwait, US, to actually look at we deal with. I was way forward. How do we actually improve the care? What are those things that we need to make good use of during this period? Before we've tried a lot of things. There are instances where they still do them chronic blood transfusion to actually, because when somebody is transfused, it will suppress the production of blood. You won't be able to produce your own because you have excess. It is what you don't have that you want to produce. So we actually look at the way forward. How can we actually compare what is being done here to what is being done in other parts of the world to actually get at our activities? And then the second, that's why we moved the one for UCH for 26th June to also have a discussion, in-house discussion, things that we can actually do to also improve care of sickle cell disease patients in UCH. And we'll be having it on Monday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So why is it that wounds don't heal rapidly like in other people?
Yes, it's because blood flow.
Blood flow?
Yes, it was the reduction in blood flow to that place that actually caused the wound. And then you need also the blood for the wound to heal.
I've seen some of these cells become ulcers and stuff.
Yes,
like
they are
that.
ulcers. We call them chronic leg ulcers in sickle cell disease. And then it's actually, for sickle cell disease, it's actually being managed by a lot of people. We are just the primary physicians. We
Okay.
also invite other people to also manage.
Which other branches?
There is avascular necrosis that affect the head of femur, the hip joint. Most of them.
Yeah, I
won't be
saw
able to-
someone with a dislocated hip. Yeah,
So they won't be able
going
to
about with
walk
a
well.
walking stick.
It's also the blood that wasn't getting to the head and then become it degenerated.
Friction.
So avascular means blood is not flowing. Avascular. So blood was not flowing to the head of that femur.
Could that have been prevented?
Yes. Well, yes. Now you can use the same hydroxyl to actually prevent a lot of things before they come in. But that's what we use now.
But that's not standard. Do I call it? It's not a standard treatment, plan or procedure that we hear. Usually we hear, okay, you take folic acid, and some other.
Yes. So just as I said, things are actually evolving.
Okay.
That's the main thing now. We are just being conservative in Nigeria, not to actually use it the way they use it in other parts of the world.
Why is that?
Yes, because the system, the support system is different. So before you can start, you need to do some investigations. And when you also start it, we also need to observe you and do other investigations. So the individual must pay out of pocket. It's not like where somebody
No,
has
okay,
paid
there's a
or you have a
structure.
foundation that has paid for some of these things. So it's easier. So if there is also a complication to get the needed materials to use, somebody will also need to pay. So it takes, we have to actually be very, very big, we have to be very careful when we are taking such decisions.
Madam, when you have to take medication and have medical care over a lifetime, financially, engaging is that?
It takes a lot from you. It's really financially draining. But the thing is this, I believe so much, I keep talking God. I believe so much in the power and the provision of the Lord Jesus Christ. Well, I know that at every point in time when I need something, He provides. Not that I put my hope in somebody. I put my hope in Jesus Christ. And when I've had to, I know that when I receive my salary, I pay my tithe. Paying my tithe is putting my trust in God that this meager salary is okay for me, even for my health. And as I said, I don't just take any medication. I take only what the doctors, my consultants in UCH prescribed to me. Somebody has somebody even in my church talks about Favoured.
We are not mentioning names.
And all sorts, general things. But I'm careful about my internal organs because I know that medications have a way of working on your liver and things like that. And as I said, I take a lot of water to flush these things out. So I stick to and I always have this feeling, well, because that there could be contraindications. So if you bring herbs to me, I would think, could he have something in it that would contraindicate with possibly hydroxyurea, with histamine or something like that? So I stick to, because when you get to UCH and they ask what I want to be bold enough to say, this is what I've taken, and this is what you prescribed. You are the one taking care of me. This is what you prescribed, and that's what I've been taking. So I don't just take anything.
Okay.
And there have been provisions.
Okay.
I believe there have been provisions for it.
Well, Doc, we know and we hear that offering herbal concoctions, people do it more for sickle cell than most other diseases. There's always one concoction or the other, and we are told that we also have different plants with anti-sickling agents in them. So in that space, how well developed is that space? How positive, are we moving in any positive direction where that is concerned? Or is this a drawback to the treatment of sickle cell disease?
Well, I think it's actually a drawback, because whoever is working on herbal medication, there's a protocol. There must be a link between the patient that's meant to use it and the person that is producing it. You need to test few individuals on those drugs. And before you can test, there's a protocol you must follow. You need ethical approval so that you can run it. It's just like a drug trial. You don't just say, I've produced this drug and you give it to an individual. The person must actually try it. And when you are trying, you're not looking at the number of bone pain crises that individual is actually having alone. You need to see the adverse effects. You need to see the effect on the kidney. You need to see the effect on the liver, on almost every organ in the body. It's not something that you give and somebody will say, I took that drug and then I couldn't remember anything again. Though it has reduced the number of bone pain crises, but it has affected another thing. So there must be a connect, there must be a link between the people that are trying to produce these things and the people that are meant to actually take some of these drugs. And that's actually because it's reducing the crisis. What people don't know is that some of these drugs that we talk about, or herbal drugs, they actually had a little bit of analgesic to it. And then there won't be pain. Since that is the commonest presentation, there won't be pain. And then subsequently other organs will now be affected. So it might actually look at like a drawback as long as we don't have that link. So actually check and be sure that it's not affecting.
But we have heard of some, even like I said earlier on, without mentioning names now, we have heard of some that have gone through these clinical trials, had been approved for commercial, production. I know there were some that had issues, came back on board. And are we saying that we do not have in this country, drugs, that could manage this disease?
The issue is
approved.
The drugs that we have, the drugs that they are talking about, there are two things to it. Are they drugs that are preventive, or are they drugs that are curative, or are they drugs that actually attend to this the crisis? So why would an individual buy, let's say, 50,000 naira worth of drug for bone pain when 1,000 naira worth of analgesic will do the same thing? So if you have any drug now, is the drug that will not make that individual to have crisis, or the drug that will actually cure the disease completely? And we should also look at the environment that we have. How many of our patients can actually boast of such amount of money? And you will now be expected to take it on a daily basis.
For the rest of one's life.
For the rest of one's life. So it puts a lot of pressure on the patients. These are patients that can now actually, when they come to the hospital, they cannot even take IV fluid on their own.
Yeah, but then is it available?
The drugs?
Yes.
Yeah, there are a lot of drugs. There are a lot of drugs, but we also need to look at the pulse. And that's why you don't start something and then you die on the road. So those are the issues. We need to actually be critical about whatever we are doing. If it is to cure the pain or relieve the sickle cell patient the pain, there are a lot of analgesics that we can use they are not as costly as what.
But you must have come across this argument where they say, look, our forefathers had some, herbs and leaves that were used and it worked. We must have come across all of that. How can we develop that space?
The issue is our forefathers actually had herbs that they were using. So you can compare the leaves that they were saying then with the kind of food that we have now. It's going to be double jeopardy for us. I'm not sure that any of them were eating this kind of food. So you are eating the westernized meal. No matter what complication from their own herbs could be, you are adding, it's going to be double problem. So if you want to go the way of our forefathers, we can go and leave the westernized. But the issue is, I'm not against any herbal drug, but just tell me the quantity of what I should take. That you take in the morning, you take at night, and you tell me the quantity of what you think should be there.
Okay.
For me.
Mr. Dibel, I know.
Of course, a consultant hematologist from the UCH. Well, let's move to you, and of course we'll come back to you too. Diet-wise, how do you manage yourself?
Well, right now I eat just twice a day, but I have,
Deliberately?
yeah, because I got used to it. I eat my first meal of the day around 9 when I get to the office. I would have prepared. I don't eat out on a normal day. I don't go to bookers and even restaurants. I hardly eat out. I prepare what I eat. And because of my kidney, I did a kidney test that I've been told what I eat to reduce my protein intake and things like that. So I prepare my food at home. I don't like, they said I should eat more of beans. I don't like beans as a rule. I never liked beans.
Protein.
That's where you normally get protein from. But I don't eat it. I don't like it.
So substitute.
Substitute. I eat spaghetti, but I put in normal beans and carrots.
Lots of veggies.
A lot of veggies. And I eat a bit of protein. It could be chicken, it could be fish. And when I get home at night, I eat my second meal at about 6 p.m. And that could be swallow with a lot of ewedu, vegetables and things like that. And by 7 p.m., I take my medications. By 8 p.m., I'm already sleeping. I sleep and I wake up 3 a.m. to have my quiet time because I need enough time with God. I was going to talk about taking herbs the other time. Why I don't take, I said I was in cultural center. There was a time we were having a program with talking about herbs and this concoction. And I asked the question that I can take these herbs if I know but what I can't allow is if they put incantation on it. And the man, I can't remember very well now because it's about almost 15 something years ago. He said, the incantation is the real thing in the herbs. That how can you say that thing that we are calling the healing properties of the herbs to come to work? And I say to myself, yeah, what you say you are. And I say to myself, I am healed, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Why would I be taking something else that somebody has said something on it that is not even, that I don't even know the source? So I don't believe, that's why I personally won't take anything from anybody.
Okay, so let's get the doctor's perspective on that, what she just said. Yes.
Which one?
Yes. Talking about herbs and incantations.
The herbs are actually
this is what Nigerians deal with.
The herbs are actually in different phases. There are herbs that are actually being produced just like the drugs. They squeeze something, they wash, and then ask you to drink without any incantation. There are some of them like that. There are some that also they also do the incantation. But most of the things you have, they give you, there are things that you can actually produce on your own. So there are two types, depends on which one the individual is taking. For the diet, I think it's actually not about the diet alone, but lifestyle modification. For an individual that is a sickle cell disease patient, we have talked about the reduction in oxygen level causing the problem. That individual is not the kind of person that will be smoking, because it's going to affect the lungs, and subsequently there will be reduction in oxygen level, and then there will be a lot of crisis. That individual is not the one that will take alcohol, because the alcohol will also affect the liver. That is what we call the sickle cell hepatopathy. The sickle cell can actually affect the liver on its own, and then could actually lead to bleeding. So there is lifestyle modification. It's not the one, that kind of person that will be taking, inhaling things and doing all sorts. You can do exercise, but there's a limit to what you do. Okay. You must know yourself. You can't compare yourself with other people.
Is there a nexus between diet and the health of sickle cell?
Yes, there will always be a link, because you know you want the blood to form continuously, because there is continuous breaking down. So you actually eat something that will ensure that the blood is appropriately formed. So that can actually have the
So what should
multivitamins,
the sickle cell
vegetables,
patient be taking?
vegetables, the proteins. Those are the things that you actually need.
Are there
For
foods,
blood.
okay, for blood formation?
Yes, for blood
Are there
formation.
foods to avoid?
Foods to avoid? I don't think so. I've never looked at it, but the food that I can advise to avoid is actually the food that is contaminated or that is cold.
Cold.
Yes, because there will be possibility of an infection. And when there is an infection, there's a problem. There's a crisis straight away. So anything that will bring about crisis, just try and avoid all those things.
All right, so this also now brings us to prevention. Yes, because we know that it's very possible to prevent this disease in society. So let me stay with you, doctor, on this.
Okay, so it might be a bit difficult to say we want to eradicate completely, but we want to reduce the burden of the disease in Nigeria. And how do we do that? I think allowing people that want to get married doing the supposed genotype. We call it phenotype, but everybody calls it
Why do you call it
because
phenotype?
the genotype means you are going to the genetic composition, which we are not doing when we are doing the test. So we are just seeing the effect of the gene in the phenotype, but everybody
we all call it
genotype.
genotype.
So
right.
the test should not be done few days or few weeks to the wedding, because by then you have actually made up your mind what you want to do. If it comes out negative, you're under pressure, so you won't even allow the person to release a negative result, a carrier state for you, since you know that the other person. I have seen doctors that also said, I'm not going to marry because I have AS I'm looking for. And unfortunately, somebody came and said, hey. They did the test somewhere and it came out to be hey, and they got married. The first child was SS and died within 1 year. The scar on the woman cannot, she can't forget up to today. She also has one or two that also sickle cell disease.
Where did the error come from?
So the error is from the laboratory. So
how come?
Yes, so because there are a lot of laboratories that are not accredited and they are functioning.
Not accredited,
yes,
and
functioning.
functioning.
Because
what happened to regulation?
Is the environment. The regulation is being, to run some of these things consumes a lot of money.
The regulation?
Yes, consumes a lot of money. So if there's actually a regulatory body that wants to go to every of these laboratories, number one is the lab must be registered first before they can track where the lab is. So for unregistered lab, how do they actually give accreditation? And how many individuals in the country actually report that I got this result from somebody, and I'm sure this result is not correct?
No, I think we've got to put this in the right perspective. There is an agency, probably of the Ministry of Health, that is responsible for regulation.
Yes.
Is there?
Yes. There is agency with
accreditation.
Yes.
Regulation and enforcement.
Ministry, and then the other professional groups.
Yeah.
I know there is Medical Lab Society, Council of Nigeria. There is the MDC and Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. They are also accredited.
Are they not functional?
They are functional, but just as I've said, there's a limit to what they can do. They also need funds to move around. And what you have not registered, it's quite difficult for them to see. So let's say there is actually a village where they have a lab that has been working, or outskirts of Ibadan. They don't have, the people may not know that it's not registered. And if you look at the labs that we have, do they have any logo to say this is accredited? I'm not sure.
So now, let's say there's a lab somewhere, and there's a clinic, and there's a doctor there. Don't doctors or people like that have a responsibility to
The doctors have the responsibility, but it doesn't have the power to say, can I see your certificate?
But refer to the
So you can, and that's why you see,
regulator.
yes, and that's why you see that the doctors actually patronize a specific laboratory. But when you are doing, when they are asking them to go and do genotype, they come from the church or from the mosque that go and do your genotype. There are few of these churches that actually come directly to hematology. We are the ones that were filling the form for them and say, go to our own hospital, go to the lab, hematology lab, and go and do this. So it is what you know that you work on. If the church doesn't know that things happen in the laboratory, there are some of them that actually have the churches and mosques that say, this is where you should go, because that's the person that they know. Yes, and they don't know that that person is not even a doctor, a lab scientist.
That's serious consequences.
So it subsequently affects. I've seen 2 individuals when I was working in a private facility where they needed to do that quantification to see the percentage of A, the percentage of S. And I told the 2 of them that you are AS. The wife is also AS. There was no way to actually say the wedding should not hold. Because the wedding is, they are doing it the result came out on a Thursday, the engagement is on Friday, the wedding is on Saturday. There's no way we can say the wedding should not go on. We don't have that power, but we needed to actually explain to them, and then if there are things that could be done, let them know that you can actually prevent having babies that are sickle cell disease if you have the resources.
What do you mean by that? Because I'm sure anybody watching from home will be wondering.
Okay, so there's what we call the pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. It's just like somebody that wants to do IVF. They will bring as many, they will fertilize as many eggs and semen, and then check if they actually are, how many of them are sickle cell, will be carrying sickle cell, you they implant them. And then if you can see 2 that are not carrying sickle cell, just implant, and then let them have twins, and then from there you just go and relax.
There is somebody that told me she was going to get married to someone AS to AS. I said, that's risky. Then don't worry. When I get pregnant, maybe after a period of time, you can check the pregnancy for. Is that true?
Yes, they can check the pregnancy, but it's not too good. The first baby SS, you terminate the pregnancy. Second baby SS, you terminate the pregnancy. Third baby SS, you terminate the pregnancy. When do you want to now have the baby? So that's why this pre-implantation genetic is better. You just look at which one of them is fit, maybe AA or AS, and then you implant.
Is that widespread?
It's widespread, but it's expensive. It's been done in Nigeria. It can be done
just like IVF.
Yes, can be done in Nigeria. So these are there are things that we are thinking could be done, and these are the things we'll be discussing also during our meetings.
Mr. Adebola, what would you tell anybody listening to you now as to the best way to care for anyone?
Sickle cell.
Yes.
Right now, I was saying I have an NGO, Favoured. And what we are doing now presently is what he is trying to promote. Knowing early and knowing when to make the marital choices so that we don't even have the incidence of sickle cell. We are trying to catch that age of decision making. We are going to we have an approval from the Ministry of Education to go to secondary schools. Yesterday we were at Wesley College.
Yeah, but beyond your NGO, we're talking in general now to anybody listening. How do you care for anyone that is?
I think the first and foremost thing is the love. If you have genuine love for the sickle cell patient, genuine love to know that this thing is not this person's fault, and you encourage the person to take care of themselves. Follow doctor's orders. Take care of yourself. Eat well. Sleep well. And as I said, sickle cell patients can do exercise. Every morning in my estate in Akobo, I walk around the estate for 30 minutes to get my exercise. So what I'm saying is this. I said earlier on that I'm lucky because I have a good social support system. A lot of people are in situations where their parents will tell you, "Shame, okay, you do more with your lily," and you say all sorts of things.
Which is a good talking point. What not to do? Perhaps we should, move the question
Don't
around.
talk down on
that
it.
way.
Encourage the sickle cell patient. Don't talk down on it. This thing is not our fault. The fact that, in fact, it's more of the parents' fault that the child is a sickler. And, because it drains financially. There's a tendency for the parents to say, "She want to call her money. Why would I spend so much on you?" And to live in Nigeria is not easy these days. Things are pretty expensive. So we should try as much as possible to take care and give support and encouragement to the sickle cell patient.
So Doc, I also want you to talk on that. But before that, we hear people when talking about this, they'll let you know, they'll say, "Well, I know of one person or the other that used to have it, but is now totally free." Have you ever experienced that or encountered such where a person was initially, SS and now is free of it?
Well, I also hear, but I've not seen. But I believe in miracles. But I've not seen anybody.
But I've not seen. Now, let's talk about procreation. Well, yes, a continuation of, does it in any way, being a sickle cell disease person, does it in any way affect natural procreation, especially, with both gender?
Yes, it affects. There are reproductive issues that's actually like a chapter in a book.
Wow.
Reproductive issues in sickle cell disease.
Let's give us an
There are
insight.
a lot of things, because I have said it, every organ needs blood. So when there is no blood at a particular time, it affects that organ. So the organs are meant to produce hormones, the organs are meant to, so there are reproductive issues that are also in sickle cell disease. But it's not that they will not be able to have their own children, but it may just take some time for them to have it.
Let's talk about the health insurance. Does health insurance
Yes.
cover that?
Yes.
Fully?
Is it fully? Not fully. The problem with sickle cell disease, and that's why we keep discussing with the government. Sickle cell disease patients can actually be discharged on Monday, this last Monday, 19th, and then by Sunday is back in the hospital. You can come in on Monday again and say, "I'm having this pain." You can say, "Okay, take this drug, admit for about 4 hours, allow the patient to go home," because we have hematology daycare unit. And in the daycare, you're actually supposed to be treated just like all those children that go to daycare and go home that same day. You can say, "Okay, come back the next day, let's examine you." It comes with a lot of funds. So health insurance now is actually the way to go. And I'm sure they actually have a plan for them.
Ma'am, are you taking advantage of health insurance?
Well, there was a time I used to pay for national health insurance,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah,
Oyo State.
yeah.
I'm under Oyo State health insurance, but I found out that I don't have time for the national health insurance because each time I go to UCH, there was a day I was in UCH for the whole day. I was there 9 a.m. and I didn't leave until about 8 p.m. in the evening because I was on health insurance. So I made up my mind that I will stick to the Oyo State health insurance. By the time I retire in 2027, I will now stick to national health insurance.
Yeah, but does Oyo State's health insurance, does it cover
It covers
sickle cell?
It covers it does. And I use CRISBO as my health insurance, for my health insurance thing. And the doctor in CRISBO, she has a ministry for sicklers.
Okay, so but we're speaking in general here. We're on air, so
I stick to the Oyo State health insurance, but it doesn't pay for my medication. I pay for my medication out of pocket. Now, if I receive an alert, okay, it's easier for me when I'm in church, Holy Family Baptist Church. I just take a ride to the nearest pharmacy, buy my medications for the month, And if you ask me, but I pay for my health from out of pocket for my salary.
Okay. All right, so a final word. Can we get that 30 seconds from you? But let me start off with you.
My final was that sickle cell is not a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. I said this somewhere on Monday. There's a woman in my church, and there's a man that I know that came to talk to us at sickle cell.
We have just a few seconds. Yes.
The woman is over 80, the man is over 70, and they are sickle cell patients. With good health care, they can live and fulfill their purpose.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, I agree with you that sickle cell is actually not a death sentence. People used to say by 18 they will have gone. And I'm also sure that the Abiku that we were talking about before, they're actually the sickle cell disease. And now we're having, I'm sure she's above 50, so people are living to fulfill their life. They should not see themselves as a second citizen. They should just get a healthcare facility that can manage them properly.
All right.